many people have a good story we want to tell, and we want to tell it in a way that they'll pay attention to it because it's a powerful story that's meant a lot to us. But just because we've researched the story and we know it really well doesn't mean we tell it really well. So we're working on that elevator pitch. So most of the time, I think that we have an opportunity to share our family stories with our relatives is that when somebody mentions it, then gives us a 30-second window at the family dinner or on social, or we just have these very short, sometimes unexpected windows of opportunity to suddenly we're on stage and we need to tell a good story. And it's, well, wait a minute, let me go get my 50 pages of notes. Nope, they don't want our 50 pages of notes. They want a good story and they want it right now.
If you are new to Genealogy Gems, you might not know that someone that you've heard about in genealogy circles, Sunny Morton, she is the contributing editor over at Family Tree Magazine, and she works with Your DNA Guide. She's a genealogy speaker and author. She also was here at Genealogy Gems for many years early on, and I just thought it'd be wonderful to have Sunny come back and get some tips for genealogists. Hi, Sunny.
Hello, I'm so excited.
I know that one of the things that you did so regularly for us and for me here at Genealogy Gems was writing. That's something that you do for Family Tree Magazine. You have written some books. I know that you teach writing. I would love to just tap into your brain power and have you give us some tips for genealogists who've been doing all this family history research and they want to be able to write about it, get it out there. It's not going to be telling a big hour-long speech.
Right. Yeah, they don't want the hour-long PowerPoint. Yeah. They want a short story. Sure. They want to see your passion in your face. They want to be excited about it, as excited as you are. And so if I have to give some off-the-cuff tips on sharing your stories with your family members more successfully, I would focus first on the stories you're passionate about. Tell the stories that have changed you. Because if they've transformed and moved you in some way, if you're different somehow because you learned about this person or about this story, then it's part of your story too. And that will show through because you're making a personal connection with the person and with the person you're telling the story to. So I think that personal connection matters a lot. Ask yourselves, what are the stories that matter the most to me? Is it the story that I found out about my relative who, when she found out about the Great Johnstown Flood, dropped her job working at a restaurant, went to Johnstown and started working in a soup kitchen where she met her future husband? Right? Yes, that story means something to me.
And what a logical place to start is what excites you. That's a good chance it's going to be of interest to your family. Yeah.
And then find that story arc. You know, we think in terms of biographical outlines, start to finish, birth to death, everything that happened in between. But honestly, lives don't go within a story arc, do they? They don't start at this beautiful introductory plot moment, and then they have these lovely plot twists and a nice, convenient, climax in the story, and then wrap up neatly. That's just not how life goes. Our lives really are lots of little tiny stories, some of which happen in 5 minutes and some of which take years to unfold. And so watch for those stories that you can shape out of the historical timelines that you built. There's a story here of a relationship with a parent and a child that maybe started off and had some troubles and then it finally ended this way or whatever. So find the story in it. Who are the characters? What meaning does it have? What's the plot? Like, what happens? And then what happens? And then what happens? How does it end? It has to have an ending. The story has to have some kind of ending. You can't just leave the cliffhanger, right? Unless it's a really great one that says, you know what? I haven't figured out what happened to them next, but that's my next trip to the library. Yeah. Oh, well, then you're going to have to tell us. Ha ha. Now we've hooked you, right? So think about that in terms of storytelling. Now we're telling true stories. We're not fabricating things, but we're telling stories nonetheless. And so giving them the shape of the kind of story that we are wired to listen to and appreciate and be moved by is going to be so much more powerful.
Yes. And you mentioned the word hook, and I'm thinking that's really something to be looking for is what's the hook? Sometimes I imagine the story doesn't need to start at square one. Hook them at an exciting place and then come back and fill
and
up
then give
time,
them the
perhaps.
backstory they need to have. Yeah. And if you like to read good novels or things, any sort of storytelling, be inspired by that. That's how they start too. If you open a really good book, it doesn't start with the sentence "I was born on," right? It
Yeah.
starts with, even if someone is telling their own story, it starts
Mhm.
with the day that this happened, right? My whole life changed, because they're telling you a story.
And then you become curious. Well, how in the world did you
Yes,
get to that place? Yeah.
that's right. And then what happened? Yeah.
I imagine most people think they know their story. They think they could tell it, but if asked and given 30 seconds to 2 minutes to tell it, they've never actually practiced that.
No, they haven't. Now, sometimes, so this reminds me of two things. Is the first is the importance of distilling that, 50 pages worth of research notes down to the 30-second to 3-minute story and practicing it. And just like you'd write a draft of something, almost write or speak a draft of it, practice it a couple of times. And even if it's like with your own family at home around the dinner table before you go to the family reunion, or with your friends, if you're out of your friends, okay, guys, I'm about to go to family reunion. I have this great story that's really magical to me and I want to tell it right. Here's my pitch, right? And practice telling it with, well, what are the things that you want to know more about? Like, what are the things you didn't care about when I just told you that story? And you can watch them too. Like, at what point did
Yeah.
they sort of subtly look at their watches, or did they, check for the waiter to bring them more to drink? So, like, you could do that. And so practice that part. But then there is also the process of, do I know the full story enough
Mm.
to be able to tell it? One of the most important courses that I ever took was a grip writing course that was on the process of using writing as to make discoveries and to say, okay, now that I'm starting to write about it, I have to put everything into a timeline. Where are the holes and where are
Mm.
the inconsistencies? And so using writing as a process for figuring out what the story is. And that is just a behind the scenes sort of thing. That's not your final thing that you share with everybody, but it is what you use to put all your thoughts in order.
Yeah. Something I started doing several years ago is as I'm working in a ancestors profile in my database, in the notes section, I challenge myself in one sentence, what stands out about this person? What has struck me in the research? And sometimes that's just a great place to remember, ooh, I want to pursue that later. I don't have time right now. But part of it is, it's really interesting actually to see the variety of subjects and topics and activities within a family tree and to be able to grab that and then expand on it and write on it or expand on it, make a little video about it or just do more research. So, we can constantly kind of prompt ourselves and start practicing telling that
Yes.
in short bits.
Well, sure. And it may be that the thing that hooks us on the story, if we've already got our answer, what's going to hook other people?
Yeah.
The only time I ever found my grandmother listed under her own name in the city directory is when she was a telephone operator in the late 1940s. Well, what did that involve? Well, because I was taught by you, I went on YouTube and I looked for
Yeah.
I looked for anything about that, and I thought I'd find a documentary. I found training videos
Oh,
on what
interesting.
that were from the 1940s and 50s that were telling these young ladies how to be a good telephone operator. And this was the days before 911 service, and so they were the 911
Yeah.
service, and that was part of their training. And I had no idea that that was part of what they would do. So that's part of the story. Well, did you know that like these 18-year-old girls fresh out of high school were doing the jobs that highly trained professionals do in moments of crisis now? They were they were doing these jobs. They were doing important work. Stay on the line, stay with them,
Yeah.
comfort them, give them good tips, and make sure that in the background you've called help and it's on its way. So like that's a story right there. And it's not a story of my grandmother was born here, my grandmother died here, but my grandmother is the star of that show, and I'm showing her in a way that most people don't see their grandparents.
By watching a video like that, you're stepping into their shoes. That's something she would have sat down and watched. And it's amazing how much of that kind of internal content is out there. All the newsreels, all the internal corporate training videos, all and on such a wide variety of topics. Seems like most stuff has been digitized now, but I mean, there's new videos coming out every day, so it's amazing. I think of census enumerators. We go and look at the instructions because that really kind of gets us in the mindset of
Right.
thinking about how they walked down the street and did what they did
And did they cross the street or did they go around the corner? And yeah, you're right.
and
So
why.
all of those,
Yeah.
and why? Yeah, all of those how-to resources that were not made for us, but were made for the people
Yeah.
we're researching, that can give us, you're right, it gives us a window into what they were thinking and why they were doing things the way they were doing them.
Well, you're a writer and you teach writing. I, of course, have to ask you, what do you see as the impact of artificial intelligence and AI on writing these days for genealogists? Okay, let's be honest. The idea of writing your own story, your autobiography, it can feel incredibly intimidating, right? And that's why I am so excited to tell you about My Stories from our wonderful sponsor, MyHeritage. My Stories helps you preserve those cherished personal and family tales and turn them into a professionally printed keepsake book. You receive a weekly prompt via email, and you just reply to the email with your favorite memories, and My Stories does all the heavy lifting. They compile it all for you. All those collected stories and any photos that you want to add are then beautifully printed in a high quality hardcover book. It's ideal for holidays, birthdays, or anniversaries, creating a truly unique and personal present. And here's the best part. Our wonderful sponsor, MyHeritage, has put together an exclusive 25% discount just for genealogy gems. So use our link in the video description below at YouTube or on our show notes page at genealogygems.com. And at checkout, put in the coupon code Genealogy Gems. Altogether, no space. Genealogy Gems will get you 25% off. It has never been easier or more affordable to tell your story. And now is the time, my friends. I'm doing it. I hope you do too. What do you see as the impact of artificial intelligence and AI on writing these days for genealogists?
That's a good question that a lot of people way smarter than I am are answering out there. And if it's a topic that you're interested in, I hope you'll go learn from somebody smarter than me. But my response so far, first of all, is that we're already using AI if
Yeah.
we're putting our trees in a place like Ancestry or Family Search, and then you go to the part of their profile where it shows their family story or their personal story, that has been generated by using artificial intelligence. So they've already written a skeletal biography for you, and sometimes that can help you realize, oh wait, that's not right. Right?
Yeah.
So you can use it as sort of a mirror where you kind of hold it up and say, how am I doing? If it's a tool that's meant to do that well. But the way that I think about AI and the way I've been taught to is that treat AI like a reasonably competent assistant that you give an assignment to, and then you check their work carefully. But it's crucial and helpful. It's like, oh, this content right here, this is great, and it inspires me to go down this direction a little bit more. But always, if you're feeding things to AI to help you tell family stories, always collaborate with AI. Don't just take their word for it. Make sure that you're going in and fact checking everything and then making it better, and then asking AI to take the version you've just made better and see if they've got a more compelling way to say it, or a more folksy way to say it, if that's the audience you're going for, or a more scholarly way to say it. So go back and forth with it, understanding both its abilities and its disabilities.
Yes. And that's what we're going to be doing here. In fact, AI was, of course, the number one topic of the survey that I did recently. People wanted to learn about. So we'll be talking about tools like Transcribus and ChatGPT and Gemini, and the ways in which we can use AI to maybe generate outlines or summarize. You were talking about, having hundreds of pages, it can be summarized or outlined very quickly. But also understanding the pitfalls that in today's world of AI is that these large language models, they want to fill that story out one way or another. So if it can't do it with the facts, it just moves
It's
from
gonna,
there into
that's right.
fiction. And so, we'll be tackling all of those topics because the truth is, good or bad, it's here.
It
And
is.
I think one of the other things that I'm really interested in, and probably something that you're thinking about, is being able to spot it as well. So being able
Yes.
to spot AI written materials, and also how to cite the source for it? Or do we need to? Or in what way do we need to help our reader know? This part was done with AI, but unless it's doing all the writing, I'm thinking we don't necessarily cite the source that we used Excel for something, or that we used Word, or that we used Grammarly. So it's
So it's kind of,
finding
finding that
the
appropriate
accountability.
right, that accountability and that ethical, that where ethically is the right place to do that. Really great questions, and I'm so glad you're going to be tackling those with all of your listeners.
Well, it's going to be an interesting year coming up here on the show, and it's wonderful to have you come back and visit with us. And we love your content, and we can keep track of what you're doing over at sunnymorton.com, correct?
That's right.
Awesome. Good to see you, Sunny. We'll just plan on seeing you again soon, okay?
Okay, love it.